We all think we know it, the fluid that governs our planet, water. Omnipresent, with characteristics that appear familiar to us. If we look closer, however, it is full of mysteries. For instance, does water have a memory? Do the molecules remember events they were once confronted with? Are cosmic forces at work? The quest for the true characteristics of water leads straight to science's front line, where fact and mystery mingle. There, where but a few steps separate misconceptions from discoveries that change the world. Everything flows, everything is composed of water. The human body, plants, animals, the larger part of the earth is covered with water. No wonder then that metaphysics and science have always been interested in it. At some point in time, water was able to leave the mystical world behind and find its way into the scientific textbooks, with which everything seemed settled. Until suddenly, people turned up who recognized new and spectacular properties in water. Above all, its so-called memory, about which hundreds of stories are now told. The idea behind it is that water is influenced by its surroundings, by other materials that it comes close to, and also from rays and vibrations that are capable of changing certain characteristics of the water, and this in a very strange and mysterious way that to this day remains a mystery to science. The most astonishing assertion comes from a Japanese naturopath named Masaru Emoto. The proof he furnishes for the memory of water is as weird as it is thrilling. He claims to have proved without a doubt that water is capable of storing information which he can also make visible with the help of photographs. The form of water's ice crystals changes according to the nature of the information with which the water is confronted. Bad conditions and disharmony, says Emoto, can lead only to ugly crystals, such as those from Tokyo tap water or the murky depths of the Ganges River. Canadian glacier water, or pure water from the Alps on the other hand, produce edifying and harmonic forms of great beauty. Masaru Emoto also plied water with music, initially solely classical, from Beethoven to Chopin. He claims that water can remember the music and that its ice crystals reflect the character of the music. As one may well expect, Emoto found that Beethoven, Chopin and Bach prompted water to produce beautiful, evenly formed crystals, whereas modern music, most particularly heavy metal, brought forth nothing but amorphous, ugly shapes. Since one knows so little about water, many different theories exist. We are still at the very beginning and are presenting all this to scientists around the world to discuss. they may be distressed, since this is a completely new way of thinking. And once they've thought about it, they might still not know what to think. And if not, simply keep quiet.
自分はどうやって論評したらいいんだ。とりあえず黙っていようというところじゃないかな。
12 years of research in the ice house, tens of thousands of crystal photos. The burden of proof seems immense. Water, Emoto, is capable of remembering events, a claim that's enough to make any physicist's hair stand on end. For water has already presented us with a wealth of miracles, within the framework of the laws of physics too. Most substances stretch when they grow warm, and when they get colder they shrink. Not so with water, which is at its densest or heaviest at 4 degrees plus and not at 0 degrees centigrade. Thus, in winter, the coldest water is on the surface, and for this reason a lake will freeze downwards and not the other way around. When water freezes and becomes ice, it also becomes, as opposed to all other fluids, less dense. It expands and floats to the surface. Were this not the case, our world would look entirely different. There would be no floating icebergs, and ice cubes would sink to the bottom of our drinks. The cause of all the magical suppositions lies in the molecules. Although water is composed of two gases, oxygen and hydrogen, it does not, as is the case in many similar combinations, remain gas, but becomes a fluid. The explanation is that single water molecules join other water molecules, and together they form larger, short-lived structures, and thus become fluent. This phenomenon is generally considered a classic textbook example, although no one has ever actually seen the heaps of molecules. These appear to form and then dissolve again unbelievably quickly, and seem also to invest the water with a kind of temporary order, the so-called memory that can store information. Water that stores information. A hypothesis with which one particularly and very seriously concerns oneself in Russia. Hidden away for decades behind the Iron Curtain of the Soviet Union, researchers were protected from the shifting fashions of science, and this had the advantage of allowing them to approach a host of subjects without inhibitions. Yuri Rachmanin is considered the top authority on water research in Russia. He is vice president of the Academy for Natural Sciences. For him, the prime obligation of a researcher is always keep your eyes and your ears wide open.
Несомненно, к нам обращаются очень многие.
Many people come to us who work with water and search for unusual qualities in it. Often their ideas are quite absurd, and so we refuse to entertain them. But some of their findings are corroborated by chemical and physical tests, however. And that means that we researchers must examine them, since for us, investigation is the first commandment. And a lot does get done in Russia. By Witold Bakia, for example, who is primarily a researcher and, as a consequence, also a businessman. He owes his success to an invention which, according to the present state of science, shouldn't really exist at all. It took him 30 years to develop a machine to wholesale cereal production that will free water from bacteria and impure emissions in seconds without chemical additives. On the other, with remarkable qualities. It is biologically pure, heavy metals have been rendered harmless, and the dubious structure of the water radically altered in the process. Basically, the procedure relies on the familiar electrochemical technique of splitting the water, whereby a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, the volatile oxyhydrogen, is produced. What remains a mystery is just how Witold Bäckher managed to produce this particular reaction in his machine. But when all's said and done, one thing alone is important. It works.
Within last 5 years, we produced approximately 25,000 sterile devices for Russian hospitals. In any hospitals in Russia, you can find our sterile devices, our water purification systems, for getting washing, disinfection and sterilizing solutions, ecologically pure washing, disinfection and sterilizing solutions. It can save a lot of chemical reagents, can save money, can save efforts, etc.
The technical details remain a secret. At all events, the machine contains pipes made of titanium and ceramic membranes, through which the water is conducted and in some way activated. What happens to normal Moscow tap water in a matter of seconds is illustrated here by a test involving a few drops of ink. On the left, plain tap water. On the right, Bäckher's altered activated water. While, as might be expected, the ink colors the tap water, the activated water swallows it up completely. Much of what happens here beggars scientific explanation.
No, there are no people who says that this is, cannot work because we cannot understand what is it exactly. There are no, because we have effect, we have, for example, we use these solutions for health. And we have a lot of studies and scientific reports which gives us answer. This solution is non-toxic and it's work. But why? This is question for anybody, for big scientists.
Вот вся ошибка многих и заключается, что воду
People who look on water simply as a solvent are mightily deluded. Water that falls from heaven as rain and washes the streets but does nothing else, that is simply not enough. Water is without doubt a source of energy and information. It yields hydrogen and oxygen. Here in Russia, several research projects are currently testing the possibilities of using water as a source of energy. They're even talking of constructing a water motor. A Moscow Research Institute and a further experiment in causing water to do things that are not quite in keeping with the laws of physics. One is attempting to expose oil-polluted water to a beam of shortwave light and, with the help of the induced energy, separate the oil from the water in the proverbial twinkling of an eye. The method, as one will clearly see, is not quite ready for serial production. First the water, then add a couple of drops of old oil, then a plastic bottle so the oil doesn't splash